Hello, for those just joining this module, we are working through the Form PI1 General Application, or PI1 for short. This module will briefly cover some of the features seen for a renewal project. For this example, I will select Renewal on the General sheet in the Permit Information section. While we will not be walking through a renewal certification in these training modules, I would like to point out that there is a renewal certification option in the drop-down list here. Renewal certification is an option if all criteria are met, including no changes to the existing permit. If you are unfamiliar with the criteria, you can review them on the renewal sheet, or just select renewal here and then go through the criteria when you get to that sheet. Because there are no changes to the current authorization, many more questions and sheets are grayed out for renewal certifications. In this example, I will be selecting a renewal. In this example renewal, I will be incorporating by consolidation 2 PBRs, as I have listed here. My project description specifies that I am not requesting any changes to my authorized facilities, as seen here, and that I am consolidating those 2 PBRs. I filled in the rest of this sheet accordingly. You can see an original signature is required for a renewal project. The renewal sheet is visible for renewal projects. The questions help us determine if the renewal project meets the rule requirements and if other projects are associated. There are questions to determine if an amendment is required. And there are federal regulatory questions. These are the same as on the technical sheet. If you answer it here, then these questions are grayed out on the technical sheet to save you time if you are submitting a renewal amendment combination application. Next, we get to the renewal certification criteria. As you can see here, if one of those criteria is not met, then the rest are grayed out since the renewal does not qualify for the renewal certification. If I change that response, and I've already pre-filled out all of the other responses, we can see down here that the permit is eligible for renewal certification, and I can indicate that I want to have that review style by selecting I agree here. On the technical sheet, I have indicated that this project is not for a concrete batch plant. Here in the emissions review section, I indicated that an impacts review is required because I am incorporating by consolidation 2 PBRs. I've also indicated no for the disaster review, for the air pollutant watch list, and for the mass emissions cap and trade requirements. Next, on the unit types emission rate sheet, having selected the renewal means that my drop-down boxes have changed for column A. We talked a little bit about that on the unit types emission rates module. Now, instead of having the option to modify sources, we have renew, remove, and consolidate as the only selection options. That is because with a renewal, you cannot have new or modified sources. If I had selected renewal certification, this sheet would have been grayed out entirely. And if I had selected a renewal amendment, I'd have the option to modify and add new sources on this sheet. The stack parameter sheet is the same as the amendment since stacks could move with a renewal. This sheet is grayed out for a renewal certification. The public notice sheet grays out questions that are not related to renewals. And it is pre-filled in since we already indicated that this is a renewal on the general sheet. Renewals are subject to public notice, so we don't need to be looking at the project increases compared to the thresholds. APD staff do need to see the pollutant list and proposed emission rates, so we know which pollutants to include in the public notice. This also allows us to check that the pollutant list is correct and that there are no duplicates, such as having a typo or a missing pollutant. For example, here I have both CO and carbon monoxide listed. This should be corrected on the unit types emission rate sheet prior to submittal. Because public notice is required, as seen here, all of the contact and public place information should be completed. Finally, we have the small business classification section here. The federal applicability sheet is not relevant for a renewal-only project, so the whole sheet is completely grayed out. You can see that the header is gray here, so you know that there are no additional questions anywhere on this sheet. On the fee sheet, many of the areas are grayed out because they are related to non-renewal fee calculations. If this had been a renewal and amendment, these sections would be visible for the amendment portion of the project. Here is where the renewal fee is calculated. Renewal fees are based on the total annual tons per year authorized by this permit. I've entered a value here, and you can see that the value of the application fee has been calculated automatically. The applicant should then fill out the payment information section here and verify that the amount paid matches the amount owed. Because I selected yes to needing an impacts evaluation on the technical sheet, the impact sheet must be completed. If I had selected no, then this sheet would be grayed out. Details about completing the sheet can be seen in the impacts module. Next, we'll look at the BACT sheet. It functions the same as the amendment that we walked through in the BACT module. Units that are being renewed only are not required to meet current BACT. However, units being renewed must meet requirements that are economically reasonable and technically practicable given the age of the facility and the impacts of the emissions on the surrounding area. Therefore, units that are being renewed only and not modified will be listed on the BACT sheet. Current Tier 1 BACT will be listed automatically, so it's less typing if your unit happens to be meeting it. If not, you can list what control technique is implemented for the unit in the additional notes column here. To reiterate, current Tier 1 BACT is not required for a renewed only source. Column A here identifies the action for each fin as identified on the unit type emission rate sheet. This helps identify the renew only sources that do not need to meet current BACT versus the consolidated sources that do need to meet current BACT. If this were a renew amendment project, we might also see some new or modified sources in this list, which would also need to meet current BACT. Next, we'll move to the monitoring sheet. All renewed sources will be listed on this sheet and will need to represent monitoring consistent with rule requirements. The material sheet and resource sheets function the same as was represented in the other modules.